go to our next question.
Okay, this is a funny one. This kind of, I'm going to read it in like as neutral of a tone that I possibly can. This kind of life isn't for me. I'm always going to be a strong, independent woman who always pulls myself up by the bootstraps, and I want to keep it that way. Being cooped up all the time, cooking, cleaning, taking care of littles is not my cup of tea. And if my boyfriend tells me about doing some patriarchy relationship type of deal, someone gonna literally meet Jesus in a blink of an eye, and spoiler alert, it isn't me. But if it works for you, great. But I'm just not into that lifestyle, or will ever do it.
Which again is, the irony of it is, she's saying she's gonna murder or hurt or harm her husband if he leaves her control. If he wants to have authority in the relationship, not her, she will literally abuse him.
Which is the outcry. And you know, we wouldn't normally pull these type of comments because it's like, wow, fascinating.
Wow.
And there's lots of these type of things that's like not really worth even responding to. And you'll notice that we don't respond to people's comments that are negative because there's no point of arguing with people. But we included this one because we're like, the very thing that most people comment on that they hate about our video is abusive men. Meanwhile,
someone gonna literally meet Jesus. Yeah, and that's it. It's like, hey, if this isn't for you, like if you're a legit feminist who wants to go and be a strong, independent woman, our videos are not for you.
And you're not going to be offended by it because you're going to be happy with your life. It's really funny with the whole being cooped up all the time, cooking, cleaning, taking care of littles is not my cup of tea. And I'm like, actually, being a homemaker and a housewife and a mom, I feel that when you have a biblical marriage, it actually gives you the opposite of being cooped up. You have a lot of freedom. You can make home a wonderful place to be. I think the most cooped up I've ever been was when I worked my graphic design job in a cubicle, in a dark room, in a basement, surrounded with other people who I didn't enjoy, except for one. And
you're fine.
I'm still friends with her today.
Except that one person.
Well, I'm friends with her today, so...
Not you.
The rest of them, not so much. But, like, that to me was misery. If you ask any number of career women if they like their jobs, I would say the majority of them actually hate their jobs. If you ask any number of women who are homemakers and housewives if they would like to go back to work, I think an immediate dread would fill them of like, oh no, I do not want to go back to work. I am the most free I've ever been. I have time to do what I want to do, what I want to learn.
A strong, independent career woman, you are tied to your boss, your corporation, whatever it is. That's what you've got to go and spend all your time at. And then you maybe have 4 hours a day to yourself where you go out and get takeout and watch a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
We sit down pretty much every Monday and we say, here's what we want to do this week. We pencil it into our schedules. Here's what we need to do. You know, we all have chores and responsibilities and duties. Here's where I need help. Here's the things that I'm going to do this week. And then Kelly gets to say, here's the things I would like to do this week. Here's the things I need you to do this week, or things that we are trying to achieve this week. We'll pencil it all into our schedules. That is how we have our time. So if Kelly wants to go and do some activity or see some people or do something, she doesn't have to be like, well, I have to fit it into between 5 and 8 p.m. on a Thursday night if I'm going to do this one thing. It's like, as long as we are hitting all the things we need to hit, we have an amazing freedom to pretty much pursue whatever projects and stuff we want to do. Because we're building our own household. The Proverbs 31 woman, it says she had industry and crafts and property and skills and family and servants. And her husband was out at the gate doing things that he was doing. And she was out doing what she wanted to do because her husband trusted in her.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to trust of, does your husband, oh, my husband won't let me do anything. It's like, that's a you thing.
Yeah. And I will say she's doing all of those things under her husband's authority, the Proverbs 31 woman. Like, she is a very skillful woman under her husband's household. She's not going and working for some other man outside of the home, building his empire. She's building her husband's household.
And that's the thing, like, we're not against women earning money. Like, praise God if you earn money. Like, praise God for it. It's whose household are you building? Whose mission are you building? Is it your husband's or is it some corporation? That's the big issue with the Proverbs 31 woman is you want to build a family. You want to build a household.
Also with the, like you said, if I want to go out with friends, it's interesting because when you're in a community that is surrounded by families and women who do value career, it's really hard to find friendships based on your values. And it's been so cool because the church that we're a part of, most of the women are homemakers. And so going there, nobody asked me what my job or career was. It was actually like, do you have free time during the day? Would you like to come over for a coffee in the morning? We homeschool our kids, so we have flexibility. And I was like, this is so refreshing to me. This is the opposite of being cooped up. If you can find a community that share these values, you get to go and be more free than you ever would be working under a corporation that controls your time, controls your energy. Yeah, we just can't say enough about this lifestyle. Okay, next one.
I know a family where the daughter has all the STEM ability. She is to waste this talent because she's a woman. They wanted their son to like science, but he's bad at science. Too many women waste talent because of sexism. And this one goes straight into what Kelly was just saying now. You know, if you're homeschooling children, that is a huge, huge authority, responsibility to be able to take children and push them into what God made them to do, their skills, their aptitudes, their personality. That's a wonderful, wonderful use of your talents and your time. To be a household manager, it's literally like managing a small business or a company or a department where there's finances going on, there's procurement going on, there's logistics, there's organization, event management. There's so much going on in a household where you're blessed if you have a clever and talented and skillful wife. Whatever your husband's mission or goals, he needs a lot of help. So the more talented and skillful and high IQ a guy has, again, he can go and do his mission that much better because of who is helping him. Men don't want some dumb dead weight to drag them down because there's incompetence in their household and there's incompetence as a helper and there's, you know, all the stuff. Like, men want a competent helpmeet.
The Proverbs 31 woman, like, that's a great value.
Yeah. So let's take STEM, right? You go into some technology or engineering or whatever field. If you're going to go into a huge amount of debt to go become some STEM engineer and then go work 60 to 80 hours a week as a consultant or a banker or an engineer or whatever, that's the life you're choosing for yourself versus one where you get to manage your own household, your own time. You're able to influence the next generation. However many children you have, that's going to be your lasting legacy, the project that you build the biggest, your husband's status and achievement that you get to be a part of and help. There's so much more than just being some number on a cubicle in some big corporation that's probably going to go bankrupt before you're dead.
How much does a household need a very competent woman to run it? And I was thinking about when I read this, Ruth Stout is the gardener. My friend Lauren gave me one of her books and I've been rereading it as we're trying to plant our garden. And I was thinking, this woman is a very competent woman. And thinking about like all of these girls that are going to college with the aims of pursuing careers, yes, like it's good to be a competent woman, skillful, Proverbs 31 woman, but how much better is it to use that skill that you have to build your home? And that has eternal impact. The only eternal impact that we have on this world is our interactions with people, specifically your children. And so how much greater in the eternal worldview is it that you're raising your children with competence, because your children are going to be raising your grandchildren. We're not against women having skills or wisdom or knowledge. We are, how can you use that to benefit your household? And I think that also means like you can learn from your household. This is how I got into herbalism. I'm like, I have time to learn these things. I am going to learn as much as I can about herbalism, and it's been really fun. And I'm learning on my own terms, how I like to learn, rather than sitting at a desk with a professor who's boring. And yeah, so
there's no limit on what you can learn from home versus having to go into huge amounts of debt in a place that hates you, hates God, hates family, wants to turn you into a second-rate man in a tax farm to cut wages in a corporate industry. It's just credentialism, right? Oh, you don't have the credentials because you don't have a doctorate in engineering. I speak to old engineer guys, and most of the stuff they learn is on the job. Yes, they have a credential that allows them into the industry, but then all the things that they learn is on the job. That's why old engineers are so valuable, and they have to be replaced by 5 people because they've learned things through 20, 30, 40 years on the job that you're not going to learn at a university. You're just going to get indebted to. And so here's the next thing. Do you want to be a female engineer 20, 30, 40 years on the job? Or would you like to have a family? Would you like to have a husband? Would you like to have a multi-generational household legacy? There's a cost. You have to choose which one. And so many ladies are like, but I want credentials. Well, choose family first. By the age of 35 or 40, all your children could be in high school if you did want to farm them out to the public school system. And then you can go back and get your degree. And by the age of 40, 45, you can now go have a 20 to 30 year career and have a family. You could do that if you wanted. You have to understand your times.
You'll say you definitely wouldn't be wasting your fertility, your prime fertility years, getting a doctorate degree and then putting in your experience and then turn 40 and realize that time's up. And I know people will say you can have your children past 40. Praise God. I hope that that's the common thing for most people. We think that's a good thing. Have children until you can't anymore. But to ignore the fertility timeline is not doing anyone any favors.
And to ignore your most attractive time to find a husband. You know, if you're 35 and single and you're a doctor of engineering or a medical doctor or a doctor of English history, whatever you chose to pursue, you're now in debt. You've probably slept with a bunch of guys at university. You've probably been very demoralized through the corporate environment. You're not as attractive to men as a girl who hasn't gone through the meat grinder of university and corporate life. That's pretty demoralizing.
It's pretty harsh. Harsh but fair.
Harsh but fair.
Are we leaving that in?
No, we can cut it out.
Do you want to say it in a nicer way? You can say it in a nicer way. You could say, like, you're going to get your most value as an older age being able to look back and seeing that you have children and grandchildren, not looking back at the number of degrees that you held.
Why didn't you say that? That was very nice.
When you become an older lady, 60, 70, 80, you are going to want to look at your life and see your children and grandchildren. That will be the greatest measure of joy. I don't know anyone who gets into their 80s and looks back at how many degrees that they had in honor of their
and is still paying it off.
Yeah, so that's why we want to encourage you. It's like the most important thing you can understand is the blessing of children, the blessing of being a wife, and understanding how to go about getting those things at a younger age and getting years and years and years of higher education and career experience isn't going to make you a mother and grandmother at 70 years old.